Hi, I'm Gary and welcome to my shop. In this video I'm going to show you how I make a secret compartment keychain like this one. And this has a stainless steel tube for sanitation with an O-ring on the cap to keep air and moisture out. So you can put pills in here or anything else you want to carry in this. This just unscrews, comes apart, and you can place whatever you want in there. So I'll move on here and show you how I make this. Okay, this kit is a secret compartment keychain in a satin finish, and the kit number comes in this bag, and the kit number is PSI kit number PK Secrets. And all the parts come in this bag, and as I've got displayed here, they're all individually in these little Ziploc bags for protection. And what you get is a stainless steel tube, a cap, a threaded coupling, then the cap that screws on and off, an O-ring that seals up against dust and moisture, then the key ring itself. The instructions are downloadable online. It's 2 pages. They don't come in the package in the mail when they come to you, so you have to download these from PSI. You will need a 10mm drill bit, and depending on what kind of material you're going to use for the body, if you're going to use wood, you would use a brad point bit. If you're going to use an acrylic, you would use an acrylic bit. It's got much deeper point to it for drilling acrylics. You have to use that for drilling acrylics. If you use any other kind of drill bit, you're likely going to ruin your piece. You'll also need a 7mm mandrel for on your lathe, and I'll show you that later. Also a bushing set. It's a PK10 bush 3. Actually, it's a 3-piece bushing. There's one that goes in the middle between these two for 2-part pins. Since this is just a 1-part body, all we need is the 2 ends for turning this body. The purpose of these bushings are to give you a guide as to trimming down the ends on the end of your body parts. You're also going to need an epoxy glue or a thick CA for when you're gluing this tube into the body after you've drilled it. You're also going to need a PK Trim 10, which is a 10mm barrel trimmer, or you can square up the barrel end with a belt or disc sander that has a table to give you an accurate right angle to the sanding belt or the sander. Now this kit requires a body piece or work piece that's at least 5/8 inch square. This one I think is about 3/4. And most pen blanks come in about a 5-inch length, but over time I have cut off some pieces and stuff like that from other projects that I've done. So I've got some leftover chunks here and there that I can use for small projects like this, rather than using up parts of bigger pieces. Now for this project, I picked a piece of Coco Bolo that was in my box, and it measures up to match up with this tube. I'll have to trim it just a little bit on my bandsaw to get it to the right length, and then I'll do the dressing up and squaring up on the ends to make it perfect fit. So let's see how I get this one made. Okay, so in preparing this blank, I'm gonna mark this here for the length of this tube, and I won't have to cut off very much, just a small amount here. Put the square here. Not much for me to cut off. I'll go over to the bandsaw, trim that off, and then prepare to drill it. Okay, so here at the bandsaw, I'm going to trim this piece off a little bit. Next, I'm going to mark center on this, and I hold this in a consistent fashion on this block, the center finder. And I go around it 4 times, as these square blocks are never really perfectly square. Then, if you can see that the lines have some spaces between them. The lines don't fall perfectly on. It's because it's not perfectly square. So what I'll do is mark with a scribe the center there. I'll punch that with a scribe. That'll give me a guide for my drill bit for drilling. I have this mounted into this rockler jig that holds square pieces for drilling vertically. When I mount this in here, I get this blank so it's sitting all the way seated down to the bottom here on top of this piece. And then when I get this set up on here, I want to set my drill bit depth so it's just barely past this blue edge here, which means it'll be going into the backup piece after it's drilled through. That way it saves any tear out on my workpiece. So I set that to stop there with the stop my drill press to stop my length of going down. So I've chucked into here a 10 millimeter brad point bit, since I'm doing wood. And I've got this lined up here so that the tip of the brad point goes into that mark I made with my scribe. And I'll just start drilling through this. Slow and easy. Time to stop and let it cool down. Takes about 3 minutes to let it cool. Okay, ready to go. It's cooled down again, so. Close to being through. There it went through. So there we have a through hole, and I can start gluing the tube into this. Then we'll go to square up the ends and then go to the lathe. Okay, so with having given this a little bit of time to cool after the drilling, I'm going to use this insertion tool for inserting tubes. Then I'll put some of this gap filling CA glue on here. Put on a couple of strips. What I do is insert it into this piece. I like to twist it a little bit, get the glue spread around. And I'll press it on at that end. I've got it pretty much on there. We'll give that about 5 minutes to dry. Then I can do the barrel trimming on this. On my drill press here, I've put into the chuck this barrel trimming tool with a 10 millimeter guide. Comes in various size guides, 7 millimeter and up. I think 10 millimeter is the biggest. After that, you're going to have to go to a sander to square up these ends. What I will do is put this down in there. The guide keeps it true to the barrel, and then these cutters will square up the ends of this piece so that they are square with the tube. You have to go very slowly with this. This is a carbide bit cutter, so you have to go pretty slow and easy, otherwise it can catch and ruin your piece on you. Especially as you're first starting out, as these edges may be uneven. And I keep going down until I can see the shiny brass end. I'm starting to see it. Now I can see the shiny brass ends, that's what we're looking to get to. You can see how much it kind of cuts down into that. I'll flip it around and do the other end. And we're good to go. Okay, for mounting this piece onto the lathe, I have my 7mm pen mandrel on here. Have these bushings, as I described before, that slip onto there. The one end goes onto that. Now you notice got one end that's pretty flush there, whereas this end is a bit deeper. So when I put this on, I like to put this end on first. I'll slip the other end bushing on. Bring up the tailstock. Lock it in place. Tighten this a little bit. Give it some pressure. And just snug that a little bit. Bring up my tool rest, and then I'll get the height adjusted for the lathe chisel that I'm going to use. I try to get this where this is at a 45-degree angle or kind of horizontal to my tool rest here. And then when my lathe chisel is on here, I like it to be about equal with that. About like that. That should be good. Put on my face shield. Have that at a good round now, so I will start shaping it as I want it. I usually start out by getting the ends down close to the bushings. Then I'll get them finessed better down there with the sandpaper. Okay, that's looking good for there. Now I'll do is start the sanding. And I sand from a 150 grit down to a 600. And I slow down the speed on the lathe when I do the sanding. I'll slow it down to about 2,000 RPM. Headed onto the final grit. Now a little bit with some steel wool, to 4-knot steel wool, 4 zeros. Gives it a real fine finish. And clear the dust off with a rag. And I'll be using some Aussie oil to polish this up. So this is the Aussie oil that I use. Put a couple drops on a rag, and I rub it in for about 1 minute, and the heat builds up, and that gives it a hard, shiny finish. I'll do 3 coats of this. You can feel the heat through your fingertip. It's not real hot, burning hot, it's warm. But it's that heat that helps cure this finish. Time is up. That gives it a really nice, pretty finish and glossy. I will do 2 more coats of that, and then I'll go to the assembly to press the ends all together. Got the body finished and polished up, so I'm going to start assembling the pieces here. First piece to go on is this end cap. I'll press that in. I like to center it in the middle of the hole on this thing. Slide this forward. Okay, got that part on. Next piece to go in will be this connector with the threads. And on this, there's this little groove in here I'm going to put this O-ring onto. Stretch it around and get it on there and get it into that groove. I don't know if you can see that well or not. Then that goes into this end. And I'm going to carefully press this in just up to the O-ring, because I don't want to put pressure on the O-ring itself. Okay. So that's right up into there. And that's it as far as the parts being pressed together. You got the end cap that goes on here, and that just screws on. And the O-ring seals in the air and moisture. Then your key ring goes on. And then you have a completed pill compartment, secret pill compartment. That's airtight and watertight. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it, or got the inspiration to make your own version of something. If you did, please give me a like and share this video. To see my future videos, please subscribe to see what I may come up with next. Thank you.